Hello guys, what's up? Staff Sam Plays here to discuss my new mod. New, this is my first one that is called a Billionaire and a Revolutionary, aka A-bar, which I will try and refer to throughout the rest of this video, so it's an abbreviation. It is a mod being developed by me, obviously, and four others: Goosey, Apollo, AKR 1984, and the McCain. And then our advisors, obviously, Eggs, Poop Me Hoot, Diamondy, Rosemary there, and Violet, all of whom have contributed so much. I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart. This would not be done without them. Please credit them, whatever. They're great people. I'd highly recommend their work and whatnot. Very smart, intelligent people. Very smart. It's true. It's true. And then Lorraine of Bonesdale's an OG lead. They disappeared for a bit, but they're back now. They're back. And this would not be possible without them as well, because um, it was just us two. We were doing writing. We had no coding experience, but it's back on its feet now. It's doing great. Um, so a bit about the campaign trail for those who don't know what it is. It is a election simulator sort of game where you answer questions. You click answers, given questions or whatever. Then you give them feedback on what you think is the right answer or not, basically. And so you try and win an election. So this one is set in the United States. Um, this will try and cover the law of it. So it's the 2016 election, basics down, and then I will try and go through what's been mentioned by the other sites, such as the TCT Discord and the Reddit, which is the campaign trail Reddit and so forth. Um, Brief it down basically, simplify it, and then elaborate on some concepts, then what the next steps are and for future plans or development, etc. So the mod's law is basically the 2016 election, but it ends up in a tie, 269 to 269. There's many points of divergence. Hillary Clinton chooses Bernie Sanders to be a VP instead of Tim Kaine, which appeals to more progressives, obviously. Appeals to the Midwest a lot more as well, rather than completely blindsiding and ignoring it. And then Trump picks Rush Limbaugh, or Limburg, I don't know how to say it. But he's a lot more conservative than Mike Pence, I believe, which I thought that might turn off more moderate voters pretty much everywhere and ruin his chances in the Midwest. But it would turn off independents, obviously, but it would cost him Michigan, Pennsylvania, resulting in a 269-269 tie, as both of them cancel each other out or whatever. And then following the results, 269 to 269, Congress decides the presidency and the vice presidency, so the House will choose the president. Now, with the majority of state delegates still being Republican this timeline, they will hand the keys to the White House to Donald Trump. But since Trump did worse than the Rust Belt, then in this timeline or whatever else, he loses Pennsylvania and Missouri in the Senate, which would mean it would be 50-50, and Joe Biden, the outgoing vice president, will break the tie in Bernie Sanders' favour, and he will be the vice president to Donald Trump, which would be certainly an interesting sort of thing to go through between them both. Um, so none of them wanted this really. Both of them wanted to win with their, candidate, but clearly, or be either of them, unable to do so. So these are the results. I don't know if you can see it well. I'll zoom in. Yeah. So these are the results. So 269 to 269. So Nebraska second, Michigan and Pennsylvania, all of them change. Nothing else on the map changes bar those three, which is pretty consequential. Now, what will this administration go through? Now, right now, the questions are done in a way. There's 30 of them, but I'm going to try and expand that more a bit, add in some other questions in there, swap out some, etc., etc. So then replayability will be a huge thing in this mod, where you can replay it constantly and have fun and try out different endings. So I've tried to make it a broad stroke, hitting on many issues and events. So for example, I've done a lot of the issue sort of stuff. Now AKR might have focused on events or whatnot. So I'm going to write events now as well. So some of them would be like, I don't know, women's marches. That's a good one right off the bat. That might be a very good one to hit off on, which and it will test these two and their relationship off the bat. Whether it will have a good turn or a bad turn, you'll have to see and find out. But there will be ways where they can come together and agree, or they will absolutely butt heads with each other and despise one another. You'll have to see and play the mod whenever that comes out, which I'm not revealing just yet. No, no, no. But they can, build bridges or break them between the two of them. But as you can see in this picture, they do have the ability to work together and form their own party as leaders. But more likely than not, they will try and fight each other to the bitter end. But they will obviously try and work together on stuff like trade and workers and all that sort of stuff. Healthcare I've thrown in there. Trump was pretty liberal back in the day, with universal healthcare as one of his big things. So you'll have to see and find out for that one. But this will take place between 2017 and 2020. It's those big years sort of thing. And that's when they got elected, obviously. So you go through the 4 years with them, which would be interesting. Now, Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, they're an unlikely pairing to say the least, especially in the climate that they're in now. It's very polarized at the moment. So here are the, what's it called? Descriptions for them. So you pause, read, whatever, but they want, not they want to, they have to work together. Otherwise, they're just going to absolutely get nothing done of their agendas. So they have vastly different sort of agendas, but they can agree to disagree and work together. So, compromise. And both of them don't really like compromise, but they're going to have to do it in the face of, the public. And if they work together well, they can do their own thing and face the establishment, quote unquote. But their relationship will be a front part of the mod, especially in the feedback. The questions, yeah, but feedback, it delves into it a bit more, because it's in the perspective. The questions are in their perspective. So let's say Donald or Trump asks a question, Bernie answers it, and then vice versa. So Bernie asks a question and then Donald answers, and then, the feedback is reflected in that, basically. So it's like they're having a conversation, really, but it's about policy and agenda. I should probably add some questions just them talking, but I don't know if that'd go down well. Sorry, dying out here. But this is the electoral map. Oh wait, you can't really see it. There we go. Look much better. So some stuff is to change, obviously. I'm thinking maybe a bit stronger in the Rust Belt and then a bit weaker in the Sun Belt and the Southeast, with Georgia, Florida, and then Nevada. But as you can see, some of it is turning a lighter shades of blue and red. So you can see Utah is a very good example, and then Vermont, which is usually like 70+% Democratic. But since Bernie's from there, starting to drift towards them a bit more. And then you've got places like Washington and Connecticut, and then you've got Kansas and Indiana for opposite sides, basically. So it's a very confusing situation, and people don't really know where their allegiances are. You know what I mean? They're confused as to who to really support, or whether or not to support this administration or not. Obviously, you've still got the safe states like California and then Wyoming. Very big differences in population, I know, but just to say as an example, they're deep blue and deep red. Nothing really changes there. But you never know. Depending on the candidate they might face, the map might change significantly, depending on who they are facing, if they work together. If they work together, which is a big if. So what is Rebirth, basically? What is their political party? So here's the banner for it. Here's a potential banner, which I think looks pretty good. People make this sort of stuff and it blows my mind personally. I can't do it. It's really good stuff. So credit to, I think Poot Me Hoot made this. So credits to him. Very good work. So in order to actually form this party, you will need a very delicate balance of ideologies and how many wins you have. Yeah. So what Trump, for example, can't tack too far to the right, and then Bernie can't tack too far to the left. Otherwise, break apart. They'll hate each other, and they will go their own separate ways. But if you keep the balance right and you make Trump go left a bit and then Sanders a right a bit, they can officially create this party called Rebirth, which will take on the establishment, aka the deep state. I love that. But obviously, without a tracker, you'd be like, what am I doing? I don't know how to do this. So there will be a tracker implemented. So it'll probably consist of ideology and wins, and maybe some other stuff that we might include, like passing universal healthcare. You never know, or tariffs. You'll have to see. Um, but I chose the name Rebirth because it symbolizes like a new beginning in American politics of populists versus establishmentarians or whatnot. And I thought that'd be a really good name to have because it basically rebirths, reform. Back in the 90s, that was a big thing with Jesse Ventura and all the rest of it. And then if you want to go even earlier, you've got the progressives back in the 1900s with Teddy Roosevelt. So I thought this is like a new movement that they want to make and want to take over what they see as the establishment and try and get rid of it, basically, upend it all. So it's a Big Ten sort of thing, populist. It's populist to its core, though. Big Ten populist party. So you'd have Trump's America first, like the populist right, and then the Democratic Socialist left. So the populist left. They'll butt heads, but the core thing is they're populist and they want to upend the status quo, basically, which is what these two men strive to do. Now, the opponents for them, which is really interesting. You've got Angus King and Mitt Romney, Pete Buttigieg and Charlie Baker, Mike Gravel and Chris Christie, and Phil Scott and Tony Evers. Now so Angus and Mitt, for example, they're a ticket, and then so on and so forth. They're basically the antithesis to what Bernie and Trump are, which is they're populist. These guys are the establishment, really. They know how politics works. They've been in it for decades. And so we thought, make it unique. We wanted unique opponents because I don't think Tony Evers is in a mod. I think Gravel's in a few of them. I think Scott's in a few as well, but Baker, actually no, Baker's in one. The only one that hasn't been in one is Angus King, which I'm really proud of. Thought that'd be a good idea. That make it stand out like the others. It make it stand out even more, I should say, because I think this is a pretty unique idea. Not to discredit others, but I think this is a pretty unique one, a pretty far out one. But I'm proud of the idea. Not bragging or anything. But obviously, with each opponent, it will depend on how many wins you have or how many ideological scoring you have throughout the playthrough. So, let's say Angus, if you have like 3 wins and Trump and Bernie have tacked to their ideological opposites a bit too much. You'll see what happens because we've discussed it and it will, be shown throughout. So you'll see. But more likely than not, your first attempt will be them breaking apart and hating each other. So they'll still stay in their posts. So Trump is still the president and Sanders is still the vice president. So you might get a bit of meddling within the questions, trying to sabotage one another. But they are, if you tack too far to the right as Trump or tack too far to the left as Sanders, they'll break apart and they will run against each other. So Trump will remain a Republican, Sanders will obviously remain a Democrat, and they each have 4 VPs to choose from. Which, thinking about it, I think that's a good number, but I want to try and include more because I think it'd be fun and enjoyable to see more and more stuff being added. But we'll see what happens. We'll see. So the choices we have are Sarah Palin, Marco Rubio, Brian Kemp, and Ted Cruz for Trump. And then for Bernie, we have Amy Klobuchar, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Catherine Maisto. Maisto. I don't know how to say the name. You're gonna have to forgive me on that. But there's all plenty to choose from within this. You've got some of the more safer options like Cruz and Rubio, which I think, it's a good idea. But it's more challenging ones like Palin, which, she isn't really relevant at this point, but she was like considered in 2016, so I thought maybe Trump might go back and think, I want a Tea Party sort of conservative on my ticket this time and go for Palin. And then Kemp's just there in it. He's just there. But for Bernie, we have Amy Klobuchar, who's, staying with like every other mod. She's always with Bernie. She can't help it. Joe Biden, I thought, was an interesting one because he was also a vice president. But I thought it'd be interesting to see if Bernie goes and tries to tack more with the establishment because he is the embodiment of that sort of thing. He's been it for about 40 years at that point. So it'd be an interesting thing to see. We've got Kamala Harris, which I also think was a good choice, coming from California, the West and the East Coast. And then she's pretty liberal as well, so you could say she'll appeal to progressives a lot more. And then obviously, that sort of thing. And then Catherine Maestro from Nevada. I think she's a senator. Yeah, she's a senator. It's like if you want to tack to the both like establishment light, but also pretty progressive in some way, which I think would be an interesting thing. So they both have wide ranges to choose on. Very good choices. I have to say, very good. And then what we have as of the 12th of December, so I did this yesterday, but we go through it today. So questions are done, feedback is done, and answers are done. Questions and answers, what's it called? I'm going to do more questions, but what we have right now is pretty good. But I want to do more to, I think replay. I want replayability on my mod. I think that's a very big thing. Code 1 is done. That's done. Thanks to Housey House for that, by the way. Great guy. Did a lot of work on that. Code 2 is coming along with all the coders helping out, like Goosey and the McCain. Would not be able to do it without them. And then endings are being written through, but I've been incredibly lazy when it comes to that. So any help with the writing department would be really nice. So I will post a Discord link in the description below. So any of you are free to help, basically. We're always looking for advice or feedback, generally speaking. Like, really appreciate any sort of thing you can give us because we're always looking to improve and revamp some of the older stuff. Because I started this back in May, but it was kind of dormant for a couple of months because I didn't really have the motivation for it. But since we've got coders and all the rest of it, I'm motivated as ever to get it done. But the vast majority of the mod team, we've all agreed to stay on to do more mods in the future, like a mod team, which I think is a pretty good sort of development because I don't think there's that many mod teams. I could be wrong. I don't know. I do not know the law, but we do have a team going. We've got like 10 or 20 or 10 or 20 so mods we want to do, but each of us, we're all going to decide one mod we want to do, lock that in, and then when A bar is done, we're going to put it to a poll for the campaign trail community, so they will choose what mod we do next. So I'll share mine because I thought, why not? So I want to do a 2018 and 2024 way race between, if you guys know 2016 four-way, like Trump, Sanders, Clinton, and Rubio, it'll be following on from that, which I think would be really interesting. I want to do a midterm mod with that, so 2018 midterm four-way, which I think not many midterm mods have been done before, so I think it'd be a really good idea. I think people in the community would want to see that. It'd be a loss of work, I have to say, getting all those maps and answers and what was it? Issues. It'd be really interesting to see how that goes. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it, to be honest. So yeah, you guys have a great afternoon or evening or morning or whatever you guys are on. And I will see you in the next video. See ya.